Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The council will receive testimony on the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills Sector Plan tonight. This is a comprehensive amendment to portions of the 1989 Master Plan for the communities of Kensington, Wheaton, as amended, 1996 Forest Glen Sector Plan as amended, and 2000 North and West Silver Spring Master Plan as amended. It also amends the general plan on wedges and corridors for the physical development of the Maryland-Washington Regional District in Montgomery and Prince George's counties as amended. 2013 Countywide Transit Corridors Functional Master Plan, the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways is amended, in 2018 Bicycle Master Plan. The sector plan area covers 230 acres and extends along the Georgia Avenue corridor from the edge of downtown Silver Spring at Spring Street to Dennis Avenue just south of downtown Wheaton. The plan focuses on strategic redevelopment opportunities, improve connectivity, and enhance safety for all users. Recommendations are provided for land use, zoning, transportation, parks, trails, and open space, the environment, and historic resources. A Fed committee work session is tentatively scheduled for Monday, November 25th, and persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business Friday, November 15th, so that your views can be included in the material which staff will prepare for the committee's consideration. Please hand copies of your testimony to the clerk seated at the podium upon entering the room. Substitute speakers, please advise the clerk if you are a substitute speaker for your organization, and speakers will not be allowed to cede time to another speaker. Also know that you have 3 minutes to speak. A yellow light in front of you will come on when you have 30 seconds left in which to finish your presentation. A red light will come on when your time is up and will stay on should you run over. Also, there is a button at the base of the microphone that you can press to activate your microphone, and then when you're finished, press it again to deactivate your microphone. So we'll start with Group A. That would be Greg Assant, Casey Anderson, Peyton Myers, Quay Dortch, Allison Gillespie, and Nancy Wisdow. Mr. Austin.
Good evening. Greg Austin testifying on behalf of the County Executive. In general, the County Executive supports the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills Sector Plan recommendations with the following additional comments. Executive supports recommendations to preserve existing affordable housing at the fields of Silver Spring and the Belvedere Apartments, and also the land use zoning and environmental regulations for Forest Glen Apartments recently purchased by Montgomery Housing Partnership. Given the recommended rezoning of WMATA and Forest Glen Medical Center properties and their extremely close proximity to Metro, the Executive urges you to take advantage of this opportunity to address the demand for affordable housing near transit by strengthening the affordable housing components for these sites. For example, he supports AIM's request that any land disposed of WMATA include 30% affordable housing, preferably with at least half of the affordable units priced under 50% AMI. On both properties, consideration should be given to requiring specific numbers of family-sized housing units, for example, asking 25% for 2 bedrooms, 20% for 3 or 4 bedroom units. These recommendations are consistent with responding to housing demands documented by COG and the Urban Land Institute analysts and supported by the Council's recent adopted resolution. Executive also supports the sector plan recommendations for habitat preservation and restoration on these sites to enhance the quality of life for future residents and those who live near these properties now. The Department of Transportation makes the following suggestions. First, restore reference to a Metro kiss and ride on the east side of Georgia Avenue. Second, DOT supports the proposed expansion of the parking lot district concurrent with the adoption of the plan. And lastly, they have expressed concerns about continuing increase in delay thresholds for master plans in lieu of other strategies that address the congestion impacts of additional development. Along those lines, the Executive notes that the BRT is shown only on some of the diagrams within the plan, with a design that eliminates a reversible lane in the middle. He is concerned that this may make offloading from 495 even worse than it is today. And finally, in recognition of small business support, as noted in the sector plan, nearly 90% of the businesses in the sector plan area are small and employ 25 people or less, and most likely will be adversely impacted by the transportation recommendations in this plan and the Georgia Avenue improvements planned by the State Highway Administration. Page 86 of the plan does a good job of laying out some of the problems and identifying potential sources of assistance. The Executive requests that your Discussion of transportation issues consider specific ways the county can preemptively address some of the problems these businesses are likely to face. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. As I said this afternoon, the Planning Board believes this plan represents an important opportunity to take advantage of one of the last remaining underutilized metro sites in the county, both for additional affordable as well as market rate housing, and presents an opportunity to deliver a number of amenities that are desired by the community that exists around the metro station, including retail. The only thing I would add to what I said this afternoon, and partly in response to the county executive's testimonies, with respect to transportation, we believe that the recommendations of this plan not only create a more livable community, but also offer the opportunity to better manage the traffic flow on and off the Beltway while improving pedestrian safety and creating a better quality of place. And I would just observe that this is the one metro station in the county that is not in the red zone for SSP purposes. So that may be an issue the council wants to consider during its work sessions. And at a minimum, I would say that the congestion threshold that we've recommended for this plan is relatively conservative in light of the fact that it is already an intensively developed area that's right next to a metro station. Lastly, I just wanted to thank everybody who came out and participated in this plan from the neighborhood, both pro and con at the Planning Board, and now here at the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Peyton Myers.
Council members, thank you for this opportunity. I am Peyton Myers, President of Woodside Homeowners Association. I am representing Woodside HOA today. Woodside is a community of 231 homes near the intersection of Medical Park Drive and Dennis Avenue, approximately halfway between downtown Wheaton and the Forest Glen Metro. We are mostly in agreement with many of the changes in the Forest Glen sector plan, such as bicycle connections. This would be good for our community as well as the neighboring communities. We are, however, strongly against a major change from the existing plan. The current draft of the new plan proposes to open a dead-end road at Woodland Drive that bisects the St. John the Evangelist School and Catholic Church campus before reaching Medical Park Drive. This proposal would adversely affect our community in multiple ways. First, traffic would drastically increase in our community. Our community of 231 homes has a single point of access to the south by turning left at the stop sign at the intersection of Dennis and Medical Park. This intersection is already congested with a single stop sign, and increasing traffic at Medical Park and Dennis, or further along at Dennis and Georgia, would make ingress and egress from our community almost impossible. Second, our children attending county schools will be put in danger. The county school bus stop is on the curve and downhill slope of Medical Park Drive at Castle Hedge Terrace. Buses stop here multiple times during rush hour to pick up and drop off children. If Medical Park is given more traffic from the opening of Woodland Drive, this blind curve would become an even more dangerous situation for our children. Third, and most importantly, the children of St. John the Evangelist School would be adversely affected. We are concerned as neighbors and directly concerned as we have residents that send children to the school. School children cross Woodland Drive multiple times a day to attend religious services at the church and on the road-adjacent playground. Opening this road to free-flowing traffic would greatly endanger the school children. Lastly, we'd like to point out that the Planning Board did not appear to thoroughly investigate the impact of this drastic change of the current plan. They did not consult either Woodside HOA or St. John the Evangelist School before proposing the plan. No traffic study was conducted to investigate the effects of the drastic change they are proposing. And the publicly available Maryland State data on the intersection at the nearby Augustin, Georgia, does not appear to show congested traffic in need of remediation. So there's no good reason for opening a street through an elementary school campus to free-flowing traffic. The only suggested reason for opening the street is connectivity, which, although a wonderful concept, is a buzzword. Connectivity as a theoretical concept should not be used as a sole justification to drastically affect a community and a school without studying the adverse effects of these actions. In summary, Woodside HOA does support most of the concepts in the Forest Glen sector plan, but would strongly oppose opening Woodland Drive to traffic due to safety and traffic concerns that had not been studied or addressed by the county. We hope that the County Council would drop this poorly thought out part of the plan that would adversely affect our community and our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Quay Dortch.
Hello, my name is Quay Dortch. I am a homeowner in the Woodside community. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. The Glen Montgomery Hill sector plan calls for opening Woodland Drive to Medical Park Drive. Woodland is currently a dead-end road that bisects the campus of the St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church and School. Medical Park Drive goes through the Woodside community where I live. There are only 2 exits from Woodside, and only one goes south to D.C. I'm opposed to opening Woodland Drive because it will negatively impact both the Woodside community and the St. John the Evangelist Church and School campus. First, in Woodside, traffic will likely increase from nearby communities or from cut-through traffic from Georgia Avenue. Children wait for the school bus in the morning and are dropped off in the afternoon at the intersection of Green Holly Terrace and Medical Park. Speeding traffic and poor sight lines along this downhill segment are already a safety concern. Pedestrians often cross from one side of Medical Park to the other. In areas with poor sight lines where cars already speed, increased traffic will threaten pedestrian safety even more. And finally, traffic builds up at the stop sign at the intersection of Medical Park and Dennis Avenue, which is the only exit from our community to go south, especially in the morning. This is the only way out of Woodside if you want to go south. Waits can be quite long. Increased traffic will make waits even longer. Finally, children attending St. John the Evangelist Catholic School will be endangered. As a result of opening Woodland Drive, there will be a busy street through the middle of the church school campus where now there is just a dead-end street. Children from the school go back and forth to the church, and the playground is currently unfenced and right next to the road. No reason has been given for this change except to increase connectivity. No traffic study has been conducted. I am fine with opening this as a bike path, but not for cars. I also support most other aspects of the sector plan. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Allison Gillespie?
Good evening. Although I've talked to many of you in the past one-on-one about the sector plan, I'm here tonight as president of the Forest Estates Community Association. Forest Estates is right across Georgia Avenue from the Metro and includes more than 720 homes. My husband and I have raised our 2 children there over the last 19 years. Throughout that time, I've chaired the Environmental Stewardship Committee, served on local PTAs, led refurbishment committees for 2 of the neighborhood parks. I was especially excited to take on the role of president of the neighborhood this year. My neighbors have been very active in the sector plan's drafting process, so it's been a great time to serve. Our high level of engagement shows in the end product. Staff was great and even came and presented at a neighborhood meeting, and they were received with applause and a lot of enthusiasm. The staff's professionalism and attention to detail was impressive, and their desire to be inclusive was evident throughout. My neighborhood has undergone a lot of changes in the last 2 decades. A lot of the original residents bought here to escape the city back in the 1940s, but a lot of people who buy now like that the neighborhood is urban and close in. Many, including me, bought because it was close and walking distance to Metro. We're grateful for the council's recent decision to fund a new Metro entrance at the east side of Georgia. Now we want to expand the vision. My neighbors have been asking for daycare, shops, and restaurants near the station so they can reduce the time they have to spend driving. We want more of a main street. We've tried our best to create one on our own. One of our neighbors decided 11 years ago we needed a farmer's market. With the association's support, permits and fees were covered so the market could happen every Saturday in General Getty Park. What we've seen is that this kind of commercial activity has expanded our sense of community. Every week, invitations are sent to the entire surrounding area to come listen to music, buy food, and meet a local politician, sometimes you guys. It's the only marketplace in Forest Glen, and it's now touted by local realtors. It even employs neighborhood teens. It has literally put us on the map. It's hugely successful because our neighborhood has badly desired that third place, a gathering place to build relationships and to buy something. Now we think we could do the same thing at the Metro, or you could help us. People are particularly excited about the prospect of changing that really ugly 8-acre parking lot encircled in barbed wire into more of a town square surrounded by housing, retail, and restaurants. Many of us use bikes to get around. The proposed bike lanes and pedestrian-friendly designs mean an increased sense of connectivity and safety. Crossing Georgia is difficult and dangerous, and this is not a buzzword. We need to be connected. But riding or walking along Georgia is even worse. Residents are also excited about the suggestions planning has made for improving the Beltway interchange, as we think the solutions offered by county planners could alleviate current traffic problems at merge points. We also have a lot of excitement about dedicated left turn lanes that will be open all day long. And honestly, many of our residents are excited about the cut through that would become Woodland Drive that would connect us to Dennis Avenue. And we've heard a lot of positive feedback about it, and we would like it. Thank you.
Nancy Wisdom.
Hi, I'm Nancy Wisdo, and I'm president of the Board of Directors of Americana Finmark Condominiums, which is located at the corner of Georgia Avenue and Forest Glen Road, which we consider ground zero for this project. I'd like to thank the council for this opportunity to present testimony on the Forest Glen sector plan. As you know, over 80,000 vehicles a day travel through the intersection of Forest Glen Road and Georgia Avenue. It is the fourth most congested and dangerous intersection in the entire D.C. metropolitan area. We're told that the increased in density that is planned for our neighborhood is for maximizing the ridership at the Forest Glen station, which by Metro Zone admission was initially characterized as a light service stop and uses elevators for emergency evacuation, a concern to all of us. We've done a survey of 123 households in our community, and we're currently collecting signatures on a petition. We have close to 100 signatures, both in the Forest Glen neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods, for whom Georgia Avenue is their access north and south. The folks who have filled out our survey and signed the petition support an alternative vision to the plan as presented, but just in a couple ways. So I would like to briefly lay out for you what we support in the plan in its current state and some of the modifications we'd like to see. We welcome the focus on safety for pedestrians. We hope that there will be access to the proposed tunnel under Georgia Avenue from both the east and west side. At the present time, anyone with disabilities or mothers with strollers or anyone else who cannot use the stairs at Forest Glen to enter the metro station must walk to the bus lot and enter the tunnel for access to the metro. I walked it today, and it's about 3/10 of a mile. So anyone who has any kind of mobility problems has to walk that far in order to get to an entrance that doesn't have stairs. Secondly, we also support small-scale retail, as others have said, that would contribute to the walkability of the neighborhood without increasing congestion and negatively affecting the already existing businesses. We strongly recommend reducing the height of the buildings proposed for the metro lot and the site of the current medical building at Georgia and Forest Glen. Lower profile buildings would help maintain the residential quality of our neighborhood. And finally, as others have said, we would like to see the addition of green space and community amenities to any development of the metro lot. When I registered for this hearing, I was asked to indicate for and against the plan, which gave me pause because I don't really consider our association as taking a position against the plan. We would like to see some refinements of the plan, but we are not against progress in our neighborhood. We want our community to improve and grow while maintaining its character and preserving the quality of life we currently enjoy. We believe it is possible to have progress that is proportional to our neighborhood and that development can be smart and reasonable. The residents of Americana Finmark have participated in the planning board process, and we intend to continue in this next phase in the County Council. Thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight, and I look forward to the upcoming working sessions and the continuation of this process.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much for coming this evening. We're going to move on to Group B. For Group B, we have Francois Carrier, Ronald Wilson, Geoff Gerhardt, Peter Franson, Bart Eisner, and Sarah Libet. Okay, we'll begin with Ms. Francoise Carrier. Oh yeah, please turn off the microphone. There you go.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the County Council. My name is Françoise Carrier, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Marcia Doctor, a longtime Montgomery County property owner who is requesting rezoning of two small properties in the Forest Glen neighborhood. Ms. Doctor and her late husband purchased two back-to-back residential properties in Forest Glen in 1992. One faces Georgia Avenue, and the other faces a quieter residential street, Woodland Drive. Both are developed with small single-family homes and used as rental properties. The Doctors purchased the properties in anticipation that one day they would be ripe for redevelopment to take advantage of their location a block and a half from the Forest Glen Metro Station. It's taken a little while, but the Forest Glen sector plan has finally come around, and Ms. Doctor is eager to see her properties contribute to the sector plan's goals for an improved built environment, transit-oriented development, and a range of housing choices. Ms. Doctor didn't participate in the sector plan in front of the planning board, and her properties were not the subject of individualized scrutiny. The planning board draft recommends that they retain their R60 zoning. We think this recommendation is a little short-sighted in view of the surrounding area. Ms. Doctor's properties are around the corner from Metro. They abut the Forest Glen Medical Center to the south, which is identified as a redevelopment opportunity in the sector plan and recommended for CRT 2.5 zoning. Directly across the street is across Georgia Avenue is a condominium complex with 316 dwelling units, and just north of that is a large apartment complex. North and east of these two properties are single-family detached houses, also in the R60 zone. The character of the houses reflects the difference between Georgia Avenue and Woodland. The houses facing Georgia Avenue, most of them have extensive paving in the front yard or the backyard, which is consistent with their location on a very busy street, and the fact that one and probably two of them are not used for residential purposes. They have business-type parking lots. The Georgia Avenue side of the block shows signs of the pressures that single-family houses face when they're on a really busy road, and with sizable non-residential and multifamily uses nearby. Woodland Drive, on the other hand, is a very stable neighborhood of well-maintained suburban-style single-family homes. Ms. Doctor is requesting CRN zoning on her properties so that her Georgia Avenue one can be converted to missing middle housing, which would be an excellent transition between the single-family homes to the north and more intense mixed-use development to the south. It would allow a modest increase in density on Georgia Avenue, which might work better with vehicular access from the Woodland Avenue side, which is why we're requesting rezoning for both of the properties. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Ronald Wilson?
Yes, my name is Ron Wilson. I own a home in Woodside, which is located at the northern end of the Forest Glen Sector Plan area. While I am a member of the Woodside Homeowners Association Board, I'm here today representing myself as a Woodside homeowner. Let me begin by saying I commend the Planning Board for undertaking the difficult task of updating the Forest Glen Sector Plan. It is dated, and there are aspects of it that need reconsideration. However, there are also portions of the adopted 96 plan that should remain part of any new plan going forward. In particular, the sector plan calls for not opening the closed portion of Woodland Drive at Medical Park Drive. As we've heard before, as a result of Woodland Drive being closed, it prevents traffic from cutting through from Forest Estates and Woodside via August Drive to Medical Park Drive and vice versa. I urge the Council to oppose the Planning Board's proposal that's included in the draft sector plan. My reasons are as follows. First, opening Woodland Drive at Medical Park Drive would increase vehicular traffic on residential streets in both Forest Estates and Woodside as commuters use the new connection to bypass existing intersections on Georgia Avenue. The curvilinear alignment and poor sight lines along Medical Park Drive, which is the sole means of access into and out of our community for many of our residents, are problematic today and would be even more so with the opening of Woodland Drive. Second, opening Woodland Drive could have significant detrimental impacts on pedestrian and student safety along the portion of the roadway in the immediate vicinity of St. John's. The risks to Woodside homeowner residents, other pedestrians, and St. John's parents, staff, and students who today use Woodland to cross the campus virtually unimpeded, in particular very young children, would significantly increase because of the additional traffic and higher operating speeds on Woodland. And of course, Woodland would run through the center of St. John's campus. Finally, the plan provides no basis for opening the roadway other than some obscure reference to connectivity, which we've heard before. No traffic or pedestrian study evaluating the traffic benefits of pedestrian safety or pedestrian safety risks associated with the opening has been prepared or made available to our community. In closing, I just would like to say one issue is the rezoning on the medical offices site. While we do support some increased density and height on that site, we do believe that the county should work with our community in ensuring that the impacts of that development don't have a negative impact on our community in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Jeff Gerhardt?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Gerhardt. I am testifying as co-founder and representative of the Friends of Forest Glen and Montgomery Hills, which strongly supports the proposed sector plan. Over the last several years, Friends of Forest Glen and Montgomery Hills has activated the community by organizing a neighborhood charrette, 2 street festivals, and a monthly happy hours at local restaurants. These well-attended and popular events show that our community is paying attention and united around the idea that change is desperately needed along Georgia Avenue. Multiple sector plans adopted since the 1970s have envisioned Georgia Avenue as an inviting urban boulevard with wide sidewalks, mixed-use development, and a safe, attractive environment for all users. Unfortunately, for 40 years, these plans have collected dust, while the situation along Georgia Avenue continued to deteriorate. The Montgomery Hills section of Georgia Avenue is one of the busiest surface roads in the state, with some of the highest vehicle accident rates. The road is even more inhospitable for anyone on foot, and I can't remember the last time I saw anyone try to bike on Georgia Avenue. Many of the local small businesses, some of which have been around for decades, cannot hold on and suddenly disappear. Recent closure of the Woodside Deli, a neighborhood institution since 1947, being the most recent example. Montgomery Hills and Forest Glen desperately need a reboot. Fortunately, there are 2 plans in the works that are very promising. The first is the State Highway Administration's Alternative 5B for rebuilding Georgia Ave. Friends of Forest Glen and Montgomery Hills is very supportive of Alternative 5B and has been working to secure funding for the project. While absolutely necessary, rebuilding Georgia Ave is not sufficient. Meaningful improvement will only come to Montgomery Hills and Forest Glen if upgrades to Georgia Avenue are accompanied by changes to the county's zoning and land use approach. The sector plan before you sets the stage for a genuine and long-lasting revitalization of both Forest Glen and Montgomery Hills. It strikes the right balance between promoting denser, taller, mixed-use development while also recognizing and preserving the character of surrounding neighborhoods. The plan envisions an activated commercial corridor that will serve the needs of local residents through more public spaces while making it easier to travel on foot or bike. It promotes economic development by improving vehicle traffic flow while also leveraging public transit, such as the underused Forest Glen Metro, bus routes, and nearby Purple Line stations. After 40 years of plans that have gone nowhere, it is time for Montgomery County to be bold and get serious about improving this area of the county. Friends of Forest Glen and Montgomery Hills strongly supports the sector plan before you, and we urge members of the council to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Franson?
Thank you. I've been a resident of Wheaton, Maryland since 1965 and have owned a unit at Americana Finmark Condo since 1980. My question or issue is, where are we going to put all the cars and buses and trucks in this residential neighborhood that some of these proposal designs would entail? The intersection, as you heard, is one of the busiest in the region. There's 80,000 cars a day, most of the traffic there not local. It's gridlocked at AM and PM rush hours. There's extensive backups on Georgia Avenue, the Beltway, and Forest Glen, all of which would require some kind of cooperation with the State Highway Administration. It's famous for no left turns because traffic is straitjacketed to keep it flowing. It has above average crash rates. There's no more place to put any of this traffic. I mean, the area will have to be exempt from your Vision Zero as it is now, and adding more would only make it worse. The Forest Glen Metro Station is unique and it's one of the very few in a residential area. It was designed to retain its residential character, and this council voted in 1976 to approve the plans to keep it as a residential area. It can only handle so much traffic. It only has 6 elevators that go down 200 feet. It's one of the deepest stations in the world. The deeper one is in North Korea. Finmark actually still owns the easement that some of the tracks run over. It's the only one next to a beltway or interstate interchange. And because of the nature of the roads, of which, no one could have envisioned all this traffic, Metro bus doesn't even enter the metro station. Only the ride-on buses come in, a few in the morning and a few in the afternoon. That's buses 7 and 8. And then Metrobus actually discharges people on Georgia Avenue with the 4-foot sidewalks. You then have to walk and go down the steps. So as you can see, there's a big connectivity problem. The buses don't come into the station because they can't get out because of the backups. So putting a 12-story building there is only going to make it worse. All the studies, which I've alluded to or cited in my letter, for the past 30 years have said it's a residential area. 2 12-story buildings, which if you put them together are almost half the height of the Washington Monument, doesn't make any sense, especially next to 1-story single-family homes. Local parking is even going to get worse. The Forest Glen apartments is going to have 187 units. Maybe half of them will be 2- and 3-bedroom units, yet there's only 1 parking spot per unit allowed. Where are all these people going to park their cars? There's no place. So essentially, I'm opposed to heavy development in the area. It'll end up being Gridlock Glen, not Forest Glen. And I incorporate my letter of November 5th, 2019 in my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Bart Eisner? Sarah Leavitt?
Hi.
Press the button.
Hi. Sorry. I'm Sarah Levitt. Thank you for having me today. I'm not touching it.
I think there may be a problem with that. Do you mind, Sarah, maybe moving over to the next one? Sorry.
No
If you can turn that one off. Thank you.
Hi. Try this again. Hi. I'm Sarah Levitt. I'm here today to express my very large level of support for the Forest Glen sector plan. I'm so excited to see the changes at this Metro stop, especially that's what I'm focused on today, and I eagerly await these positive outcomes. I've lived with my family in Forest Estates on the east side of the sector since August of 2000, so going on 20 years. We first rented a townhouse and now own a single-family home in the neighborhood. We moved here because of proximity to Metro and to the Sligo Creek Trail, especially, which I run on every day. I commute to work on Metro, and my son has been walking to the bus stop for school since kindergarten. He's now, unbelievably, a senior in high school, so we've been there for all of his schooling. We plan to grow old here. I have a dream, actually, that we bought the house from the original owners who lived there for 50 years, and I like the idea that we could live there for 50 years, that in a century there would be only the 2 owners. And I plan to still be walking to Metro to get downtown, and what a delight it would be if there's some amenities there at the Metro stop as well. I'm impressed with this plan for many reasons, some obviously personal, since I use the stop every day, and some more general, including all of its climate-friendly, transit-oriented features, and as well as the development right at the Metro stop. I was also glad to see green spaces and green roofs in the plan. I look forward to increased pedestrian safety so we continue our walks to Snyder's and the shopping center in Montgomery Hills without feeling like we're about to fall into Georgia Avenue, and I would definitely not ride my bike on Georgia Avenue. We actually walked recently to the Montgomery Hills Fest a couple months ago and ran into several people who were incredulous that we had walked there. Nobody walks there. They kept telling us, that's ridiculous. It's not that far. We should be walking more in the neighborhood. I'm a curator at the National Building Museum, and we deal with a lot of issues concerning the built environment, and because of that job, I'm particularly interested and invested in ensuring more quality, affordable housing to help curb the eviction crisis and promote housing stability. So I was pleased to see that in the plan as well. Also for work, I've been reading about the protests against the Forest Glen Metro Station in the 1970s for an upcoming exhibit, and those protests in the 70s sound eerily similar to some of the arguments that we're hearing today about zoning and character. A lot of the original animosity about Metro coming to Forest Glen, which was actually, I was surprised to hear one of the most controversial stations in the whole system, had to do with preserving the character. You hear that word over and over, the character of the neighborhood. And it's really frustrating to me to see that echoed today, given all we've learned about the benefits of density, public transit, economic diversity, and walkability. This area was developed 70 years ago. Montgomery County was a different place. When Forest Glen residents, and I hope not the residents of my house, but I don't know, held up the no build signs in 1971. They couldn't have imagined the community we have today, and they wouldn't have maybe liked the changes. They demanded that Metro have no impact in the suburbs, but luckily we're not bound by their short-sightedness, and even as we use the infrastructure that was envisioned decades ago, we can make a better county for families today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have a light. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for the testimony. Really appreciate it. Just want to make a quick observation about the extension of Woodland Road, and I have not had a chance to look at this at all, but the planning staff did testify to us today that, or share with us today that their intent was that that would be something that would happen if those properties were redeveloped. Is that right, Pam? So the county would never come in and say, we're going to connect this road, right through the middle of a school and a church, site. Again, I haven't actually looked at this issue in depth, but I just wanted to pass that along. There's lots more about it that we need to explore, but that one specific point I think is an important one.
One quick response.
Well, I think that, I'm sorry.
I thought it was asking a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not answering a question.
Okay.
He just wanted to clarify that piece, but there will be opportunities with the Fed Committee for additional information that you can share with the council, et cetera, and work session. But I think it's just a good clarification as well. Thank you so much. So we're going to go to Group C. Ray Heinzman, Robin Lasky, Leslie Boss, Sheldon Fishman, Max Barnhart, and Ethan Handelman. We'll begin with Ray Heinzman.
Good evening. My name is Ray Heinzman. My wife and I live in Forest Estates, where we worked very hard to buy a house we could afford to raise our 2 children. This was a very deliberate and greatly discussed decision. We chose Forest Estates for many reasons, like the schools, the great parks, and the neighbors. Even though we struggled with the cost, the distance for pedestrians to amenities, the house's size, the traffic, and the dangers associated with pedestrian travel. I knew, though, that the planning department and the council would soon be making decisions that would improve some of these, such as the bicycle master plan, the new subway entrance, the plans to fix Georgia Avenue, and the new sector plan. I am here today to express my support of the plan to fix Georgia Avenue and the new sector plan. These are the parts of the plan that I'm incredibly excited about. First, that we will have the ability to move on foot and bicycle safer and more comfortably to parks, stores, services, and schools. Second, that the Georgia Avenue infrastructure improvements will reduce vehicles cutting through our neighborhood, especially my street, Brisbane Street, making the streets safer for my family to play, interact, and travel. Specifically, the left turn onto Forest Glen from Georgia Avenue South, the light at Tilton Drive, and the opening of Woodland Drive, all of which will reduce traffic on my street, Brisbane. Third, that there will be more civic space, parks, and green space for us to interact, improving neighborly relations and events. Fourth, that new zoning diversity means there is an opportunity for development and thereafter obtaining necessities which may not require miles of travel. And fifth, that implementing green construction in this development will ameliorate the air we breathe and the climate we live in. I'm proud we reside in Forest Estates. Montgomery County is a good place to live. Implementing the new sector plan will make it absolutely wonderful and improve our quality of life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Robin Lasky? Can you please press the button there?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak. The last time I was here was 20 years ago when a cable company, fiber optic company subcontractor working for a cable company dug a giant hole in my lawn, and the late Jane Lawton, who some of you may remember, helped me decode what is a right-of-way as a new homeowner, which I didn't understand. I was on a very heavily trafficked street that was right between single-family homes and apartments, so I was used to a lot of tension and confusion around public spaces. But with the council's help, we did a fantastic job on settling that. Anyway, when I was 9 years old, President Ford told New York City to drop dead. It was my home. New York was filthy, dangerous, and bankrupt, but even at 9, I could walk anywhere, often alone. My mother sent me out every few nights to buy whatever was missing in dinner preparations, usually an onion or a lemon. By age 14, I was a pro at using subway and bus to get anywhere. Museums, parks, jobs I had, friends' houses, and to CBGBs. After college, I chose Montgomery College as my home because I liked living near actual trees. In the 30 years here, I married, built a career, purchased a home, purchased another home, had a child, buried a husband, got remarried, joined a church. Each of these things anchored me. I became a suburbanite, I have a garden, and I live just a mile from the border of a major city. Of course, I adapted to the driving life because you just do need that here. But I always thought the whole time I was here, I was dependent on exit 31 of the Beltway and the entrance that goes with it. And the worst part of entire Montgomery County was that knot of traffic that formed every day just before the Beltway at Montgomery Hills. Now, 20 years later, my second home is in Forest Estates, and I depend on that little blocked area for a lot of my daily purchases, transactions, and meetings. Snyder's is a great little grocery store very close to my house, but you cannot walk there. No way would I send my teenager across Georgia Avenue to buy an onion. And she can't really get to, I mean, now she can, but previously she was old enough to take the metro or catch a southbound bus, but no way was she going to use that intersection. But here's what was different. Nobody said drop dead. Our local government was paying attention. Sector plan is development done right. The process has been collaborative, responsive, and no one of us could have kept up with all the studies and meetings and competing needs. I'm grateful to FECA, my civic association, for keeping us informed. I will be the first to say civic activism is not always a winner. In 2004, when I lived on Sligo Avenue, the Purple Line map showed the train station running right through the center of my house, which made me not be a NIMBY. I insisted I was a not through my living room protester. Somehow that civic association was unwilling to oppose the route, but they were also consistently against smart, dense development near transit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leslie Boss? There you go.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I am most impressed with the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills sector plan that has been developed, and thank you to all of you for what you've done to advance this effort. My concern is with a minor section of the plan, one paragraph on page 25, involving proposed changes to the traffic flow on Medical Park Drive. Although it makes sense in the context of the total sector plan, it may not take into consideration the impact on the area just outside the sector. So I am opposed to opening Woodland Drive into Medical Park. And in spite of Mr. Reamer's comments, I'm going to tell you my reasons. First, Medical Park is the only way in and out for the majority of the residents of our community of 231 homes. Opening Woodland would add significant additional traffic to Medical Park, including cars transporting children to and from St. John's schools, those participating in church activities, and the more than 100 cars that park in St. John's parking lot, the drivers of which are transported to Holy Cross Hospital by bus. Second, St. John's School has no driveway in front of it that would provide a drop-off or pickup space. Drop-off and pickup currently occurs on both Woodland and Medical Park Drive. Added traffic would put children at increased risk. 3, school children from Woodside and surrounding neighborhoods walk along Medical Park to reach St. John's School, as well as Sligo Middle School. Elementary public school children wait for their school buses on Medical Park Drive. Increased traffic will lead to more dangers than the children already face. 4, because parking is at a premium at the medical offices on Medical Park and in the Woodside community, there are always cars and frequently large trucks parked along each side of Medical Park. Opening Woodland to Medical Park will decrease available parking, but also add an extra risk to driving on that road. 5, I'm not alone in using a bike to get around the area, in spite of what we've heard today. Multiple times a week, I bike from Woodside south on Georgia Avenue. As it is now, Woodland is a much safer and more pleasant route to bike from Forest Glen Road to Dennis Avenue than are the sidewalks of Georgia Avenue. I fear that opening Woodland to Medical Park will make that route less safe to bike. And finally, currently, Woodside residents and visitors to the medical facility on Medical Park have to go to the intersection of Dennis and Georgia Avenues to travel south on Georgia Avenue. If Woodland is open to Medical Park, drivers will be able to take a shorter route, Woodland to August, and exit south onto Georgia at that traffic light. This will increase the traffic, perhaps considerably, passing in front of St. John's School. So in summary, the potential impact to the surrounding community outside of the sector plan area of opening Woodland Drive to Medical Park should be more thoroughly considered.
Thank you so much. Sheldon Fishman?
Thank you for letting me testify. My name is Sheldon Fishman. I lived in Forest Estates since 1977. Yep, before some of you were born. And now my daughter lives 6 houses away, so we really love Forest Estates. I took the metro to work every day downtown, so I'm very familiar with it. Having been this late in the evening, I'm going to eliminate everything I was going to say except for the things that haven't been said yet. One of the things about my neighborhood is that we deliver 30 frozen casseroles to Shepherd's Table every month. And another thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is we are an R60 residential neighborhood with a gigantic hospital, Holy Cross, right in the middle of us, and we get along largely. But the main point is, and I just want to focus on just one part of it, is the pedestrian entrance to Forest Glen Metro stop. Every pedestrian that you get in that passageway is one less pedestrian is a step forward toward your vision zero. And it's not just the pedestrians walking, and it's not just the people from Holy Cross, visitors and staff walking, but it's those of us that were too scared to go across Georgia Avenue and had our wives drive us back and forth. So not only does it help with Vision Zero, but it even helps with the congestion on Georgia Avenue. You get pedestrians and their cars not crossing Georgia Avenue. I'm going to, a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I'm going to end with a picture that I took just a couple of hours ago, and it shows the new metro entrance. There's a big sign on Georgia Avenue, and it's been a long time coming, and we look forward to. I appreciate all your support, and I guess I have just one other point to make about this. The sign here has the picture of has the logo of the state of Maryland, the Montgomery County government, and Metro. Good for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Max Barnhart.
Thank you very much. My name's Max Barnhart. I am a lifelong resident of Forest Glen, having been born at Holy Cross, raised on Forest Glen proper, gone away for a little while, and then moved back to the area after attending UMBC, go Big Dogs, a few years ago. I could talk about all the amazing things about the sector plan that I really support, that everybody has talked about throughout the night thus far, but I really want to get down to brass tacks about the zoning on the Forest Glen Medical Center and the Metro lot. And that is because I believe that there is a middle ground between having a 12-story building with 120-foot zoning and having no change in the neighborhood. And that is a more reasonable 75-foot zone at the Forest Glen Medical Center and parking lot. And the major reason for this is that it backs up the economic analyses that have been conducted throughout this entire process. The planning department conducted an analysis, well, actually, Partners for Economic Solutions conducted an analysis for them that found that approximately 360 or 380 units of housing would be market appropriate for the Forest Glen Metro Center lot. Yet, right now, as proposed, there would be about 857 units built on the lot, far above what this economic analysis suggested. Now, WMATA, at the July 11th meeting to the Planning Board, announced a previously undisclosed study where they said that there should be about 300 to 600 units of housing on the lot without actually making this market feasibility study available to the public because it has private consumer information that has been purchased. I'm here to ask that at least you as members of the council get access to this analysis and examine it, because if we only need to get 300 to 600 units at the lot, we don't need to put up with the problems that come with exorbitant development and can have smart, reasonable development at that metro site of closer to 75 feet. As the president of my condo association at Americana Finmart, Nancy Wisdo talked about earlier, we have a petition with over 1,000 signatures from collections that we've done throughout the entire community. We've actually gone out there, not talked to the most active members of our community that are willing to attend a happy hour every week, but have talked to the people who are commuting all the time. We're talking to people who might not know about the sector plan, about what their opinions are about this issue. And while they, like I, am very much in favor of increased development there, see that having a 12-story building might just be a little bit too much for Forest Glen. We can have smart development there, bringing community amenities. That will, yes, increase congestion some, but that will be offset by those. But if we go too far in the opposite direction, saying that we need to push to that level of extremity, then I'm afraid that we'll make Forest Glen somewhere that nobody wants to live. There are people who are currently using the metro that say that if it gets that congested, they can't imagine still using it, and then we just have even more people driving into D.C. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing how this goes.
Thank you so much. Ethan Handelman.
That's me. Hi, I'm a homeowner in the Forest Estates neighborhood right near the Forest Glen metro station. I've only lived there about 8 years, and I'm not as old as Sheldon, but I love the neighborhood. I strongly support the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills sector plan that's now before you. Simply put, it will help us make the place we live even better, safer and easier to get around, with more affordable homes and more welcoming to new business. I ask you all to support it. I've been participating in the development of the plan through the public hearing process, and I've been consistently impressed with the planning staff. They've made a thorough outreach to the community, brought smart and innovative planning expertise to the effort, and created a plan we should all support. Among the features I like in the plan that you have already heard about tonight, first is the east side of Georgia Avenue entrance to the metro. If any of you want to see how I take my life in my hands every morning when I cross, I welcome you to come experience the joy of left on red. That I see every day. It's really fun. So that's number one. Second is the affordable housing options that can bring added density in a range of choices to make our community welcoming to all. Third is the walkability and safety improvements so that there's more to walk to and more people who will want to walk to it. Fourth, the bike accessibility and safety improvements are also really welcome. And fifth, the attention to greenery and public space throughout. You've already heard about the way that Getty Park is a gathering space for the neighborhood. The more of those we have, the better off we all are. Plans like this are a long-term effort. I guarantee that none of us can see 20 or 30 years into the future with any clarity. So when we talk about limiting development or restraining density, think back to that plan from the 70s. Does any of that look appropriate now? We should be foresighted. The county can lay out what's desired and pursue some portion of that itself, but ultimately the private development community has to step up, see value, and commit its own resources. Change will come gradually. Those units on top of the metro aren't going to all spring up overnight. And I'm hopeful that this vision will work to create the livable future for all of us to enjoy. Just please remember when you hear some of the complaints you've heard tonight and the ones that I'm sure you'll hear over the next few days, that when people can live closer to where we work, where we study, where we build our lives, we're all better off. There's less pollution, less traffic, lower housing costs, and maybe just fewer people hit by cars. All of that would be good. The gradual change is part of building the future for all of us, and that's why I urge you to please support the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills sector plan. I would also, in my remaining 15 seconds, urge you to remember the old joke about the difference between a developer and an environmentalist. The developer really wants to build a cabin in the woods. The environmentalist already has a cabin in the woods.
We'll think about that. All right. Thank you so much. Now we're on to Group D. Elaine Roeklein, Ted Martin, Andy Banks, Michelle Foster, Sarah Brown, Theresa Jones. We'll start with Elaine Roeklein. So there you go.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Rockline, and I want to thank you for your time. I am a longstanding resident of Americana Finnmark. I've been there for 18 years. And to say that I have seen some changes is an understatement. I'm actually from Washington, D.C., so I've seen a lot of changes in this area in the past 55 plus years. When I signed up to testify, I had to mark off whether I was for or against the sector plan, and I defaulted to against just for expedience sake because I'm actually for improvements. However, I feel that adding density to the corner of Forest Glen and Georgia Avenue and the Forest Glen Metro before some safety measures are put into place is like putting the horse before the cart. I am particularly concerned about the pedestrian fatality rate at that intersection and the dangers that pedestrians face every single day. I have put forth my written testimony, and it's pretty straightforward. However, I'm going to focus tonight on the tunnel. This seems to be passed around by everyone, and it's been posted at the medical parking lot, and some are really enthusiastic about it, and actually I am too, because it's a step in the right direction for people to cross the street safely. However, in its present design, it appears that it only benefits the northeast quadrant of metro riders, and it appears to me as if this design provides safe access into the metro for Northeast residents who are taking the metro. It does not solve the problem of pedestrian safety in general, because there are people who actually cross in the opposite direction who don't take the metro. I see people every day taking the bus down Georgia Avenue, disembarking. They're in wheelchairs, they're on crutches, they're pregnant, and they're walking to the hospital, and they're running across Georgia Avenue. So not everybody needs to take the metro. Not everybody is taking the metro. There are people, hundreds of people, and they're saying it's around 800. That's the 213 study. I would say it's closer to 1,000 people now are crossing that street. Everyone puts their lives at risk. And I feel that whatever is put there, if it's going to be a tunnel that's costing tens of millions of dollars, I would say this tunnel has to benefit everyone that's crossing the street. It looks to me like it's just allowing people to get into the metro. It's not helping folks go north and south, east and west. I propose some other options that in the near term could be implemented safely and pretty quickly and reasonably at a reasonable cost. And I would ask that you read this. Lastly, I did want to correct our condo board president that we have close to 1,000 signatures and counting on our petition, and we're continuing to gather them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ted Martin.
Thank you. My name is Ted Martin, and I strongly support this plan. My family chose Forest Glen 15 years ago. Moving from our D.C. apartment, we were drawn to the Forest Estates neighborhood on the east side of Forest Glen for its sidewalks along leafy street grid, to the mix of post-war Cape Cod and colonial homes. They're close to the sidewalk and to each other. There's street parking, front porches, small front yards blend one into the other. There are very few fences. It's welcoming and open to visitors and newcomers. And the metro is right there. But as with a home, choosing Forest Glen, choosing Montgomery County, we had to compromise. That walkable town-like feeling that drew us, there's no Main Street. We drive everywhere for everything, except to Metro, where other than the station, there's an 8-acre parking lot and nothing else. Same with the old medical buildings nearby. Single use, no retail. Having to give up our independence from cars when we chose Forest Glen was the one thing we regretted. Well, that and closets. Post-war homes have tiny closets. But you know what? We fixed the closet problem. Practically my whole neighborhood has. We've added bedrooms. We've opened up our kitchens. We've added screen porches. We've built and grown a community. We've invested heavily in our homes, in our neighborhood, in Montgomery County. We need you now to lift. We've done what we can do. We need you now to lift the shackles on development in Forest Glen. This plan for the first time will allow mixed use in Forest Glen. And crucially, it will allow just enough density and height to foster retail and third places where we can gather and spend and continue to grow our community, us and new residents. So please approve this plan as submitted. I feel compelled to address the petition that's been mentioned. I'm concerned that the community's will is not reflected in the goal of the petition, which is to reduce the plan's modest density and height limits by 40%, below that level which would induce development. I saw the petition marketed widely as smart development petition. It's been described that way tonight. It calls for retail, a park, other public amenities at the metro sites. So on the one hand, you could take the petition signers, an unknown percentage of them, as supporting the vision of the plan. On the other hand, I'm concerned that a separate unknown percentage of signers signed based on misinformation, and I can give more information on that later. The things like high rises as tall as the Wheaton Safeway, that's twice as high as that called for. The petition's authors care about the community. Obviously, we all do. It would be deeply unfortunately, though, if you mistook a number of signatures as a mandate to reduce those limits on density and height, which are already modest for a metro site. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy Banks, please press the button at the base of the microphone. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Andy Banks, and I'm the chair of the Americana Finnmark Community Relations Committee. Thank you for having me and allowing me the opportunity to speak here tonight. Of the 4 quadrants in the studied in this sector plan, West Forest Glen is by far the largest with 7,000 people. Forest Estates has about 2,000 in their quadrant. Of the 4 quadrants, we're the most impoverished. We're the most ethnically, racially, economically, and elderly diverse of the quadrants. And against the recommendation of the Parks and Planning Department's economic consultants, the Planning Board sent the County Council a plan that, if implemented, will in fact destroy our neighborhood. It allows WMATA to build 120-foot-high apartment buildings and a massive 5-story parking garage where Metro's current 8-acre parking lot is located. This will add to our neighborhood another 800 luxury apartments and an equal number, if not more, of cars. WMATA said this was needed to raise ridership density, another buzzword of today, from today's 2,000 daily riders to the level of 2,600 riders. Ironically, WMATA's own data shows that Forest Glen Station had reached 2,514 riders 10 years ago. But because of fare hikes, fires, bad service, and a deadly crash, ridership fell to today's level of 2,000. So they didn't need this development to reach that goal. We have a better plan, we think. We don't want it's not that we don't want any plan. We have a better plan. We think it is a smart plan because it takes everybody's desires into effect, not just one quadrant. That we think our plan will bring our neighbors together rather than creating division and inequality. We want a park and urban playground located where residents must now walk 3/4 of a mile to reach a park. It's nice to hear other quadrants talk about their parks. We are a park desert. That's a term used by Parks and Planning. We are a park desert. If you go to the corner of Georgia Avenue and Forest Glen Road, you have to walk 3/4 of a mile for this. I'm almost finished here. We want a satellite library. We live halfway between 2 libraries that can't be reached safely by walking. We want modest neighborhood retail that will not attract car traffic from outside our neighborhood. We want a spot for food trucks serving diverse palates to returning commuters and neighbors. We want affordable workforce housing limited to 75 feet, not 120 feet. This will help Montgomery County retained first responders, nurses, and teachers who are moving away due to high rents caused by the overbuilding of luxury housing.
Thank
and
you so
finally,
much.
we want to have senior housing.
We will consider the rest of your written
Okay,
testimony.
and we
Thank
would
you.
also like to speak to each of you individually. We intend
Thank
to
you.
ask for appointments.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Michelle Foster.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Foster. Since 1994, I've lived on Luzerne Avenue on the east side of Georgia Avenue. I'm here to ask you to adopt the Forest Glen and Montgomery Hills Sector Plan. I support the sector plan's vision for Montgomery Hills and Forest Glen. The recommendations set out a balanced approach of creating new development opportunities that are respectful in location, scale, and density of the older neighborhoods, while enabling a moderate amount of new development and increased densities. The recommendations consider the strengths and weaknesses of the existing retail and commercial area and seek to enhance its strong points and turn challenges into opportunities. The area has exceptional transit proximity. 2 stations for each the red and purple lines, and numerous bus routes makes the corridor ideal for additional housing and additional neighborhood serving retail and commercial uses. The area needs more housing, more affordable housing, and more housing choices. I strongly support the recommended zoning changes that would allow higher density townhome development on several parcels, including the lots on Georgia Avenue in Luzerne and multifamily mixed-use buildings on the sites such as Seminary Place Shopping Center. The recommended increases in density are appropriate for our location as a well-connected inner suburb. More housing brings myriad benefits. First, it provides opportunities for those who either don't want or can't afford a single-family home. The area would greatly benefit from a variety in housing types. Personally, I would like to be able to downsize when my youngest child gets to college, but not have to leave the neighborhood. Second, new residents will support the restaurants and local businesses. Positioned outside of downtown Silver Spring and Wheaton, Montgomery Hills is an affordable location for small local businesses. We want them to have a commercial center where they can thrive. The sector plan includes important recommendations to strengthen the Montgomery Hills Retail and Commercial Center. While I support most of the sector plan, I do oppose the historic designations. The Maryland Historical Trust previously rejected historic designation, and the council should affirm that decision. These buildings have been altered to have no notable historic architectural characteristics and do not deserve historic preservation. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, let me briefly turn to Georgia Avenue. Everything on the sector plan hinges on being able to transition Georgia Avenue from a dangerous vehicle-dominated roadway to a neighborhood-scale, walkable, bikeable green boulevard that balances the needs of vehicles, pedestrians, and bikers. Georgia Avenue is the root of Montgomery Hills problems. If we can fix Georgia Avenue, then the plans and policies in this sector plan will have a chance to revitalize Montgomery Hills. But if the road isn't improved, the plan will fail. The Georgia Avenue reconstruction hinges on state and county funding. While I urge you to adopt the sector plan, please continue to work to ensure that Georgia Avenue is funded, where the plan will remain just that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sarah Brown? Could please press the button at the base.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Sarah Brown, and I live at Finmark Americana. And during my 3-minute testimony today, I would like to address Finmark, Forest Glen Metro safety concerns created by overwhelming population density proposed by the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills sector plan. This station was designated as a local station, and even prior to going into revenue service, and I'll explain that term in a little bit, carrying paying customers, its depth and elevator access dependency worried safe systems planners about the egress during an emergency, such as, and to quote, if those elevators fail and by the time the emergency is recognized and responded to, handicapped people will die during a smoke emergency because there's no way to get them out in time. Second, the station platform is accessible by 6 elevators, 2 of which are operational during AC power outages, and 3 stairwells of considerable height and pitch. Again, you remember a previous person said it's a 196-foot deep station, 20 stories. Worried original system planners, understanding the inaccessibility to the platform level by nominal station attendants, had an emergency booth installed to be manned by a trained emergency service officer during revenue service. It is often not. Prior to the original revenue service, fire-related smoke and fire suppression were of such concern to station planners that they designed and installed unique undercarriage mid-track fire sprinkler, and extra-sized ventilation circulation systems to increase emergency airflow and smoke removal. These fans, over time, have had problems and are not always working. The anecdotal reports stated that prior to revenue service, Metro ran a realistic evacuation test with a person simulating a heart attack impeding one of the stairwells, and concluded that moderately full platform of riders would be overcome by smoke prior to evacuation. No plan was simulated in the test, nor was no panic was simulated in the test, nor was Spanish speaking considered. The station was approved for service pending expectations that it would always remain service to a light to moderate number of passengers. I oppose the Forest Glen sector plan on the grounds that it encourages high density population growth, predicated on the fact that most of the new residents will use the Forest Glen station, a station not designed
Thank you, Ms.
to
Brown.
safely evacuate large numbers of people.
Thank you so much. Teresa Jones, can you please turn off the microphones once you're done? Thank you.
Your microphone's still on.
Thank you.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Teresa Jones, and I'm a resident owner at the Americana Finmark condominiums. I've lived in near Forest Glen for about 16 years. I'm also a member of the Americana Finmark Community Relations Committee and have been actively working with the committee on the sector plan since 2017. Also one of the architects of the petition, and I would say to you right now that this petition...
Can you speak into the microphone?
Okay, I'm sorry. This petition basically asks for moderation. That is it. Moderation. It is not anti-development. It is pro-development in a smart way that will be sustainable for Montgomery County and Forest Glen. That being said, I am here representing my views, and I am in favor of development in Forest Glen that will enhance and experience the quality of life for the residents and the commuters using the Forest Glen Metro Station. We want a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood which has green space and provides badly needed retail and commerce in an area which is essentially a commerce desert. You've heard it already. I believe that the development, though, must be socially and environmentally just and sustainable and promotes the development of a green economy. That is essential for this community going forward. I do have major issues with the recommended zoning heights for the buildings of up to 120 feet, particularly at the Forest Glen Metro Station parking lot. I believe those zoning heights at the lot should be limited to no more than 75 feet, the height of the tallest building in the neighborhood. Indeed, the sector plan states on page 73 that building heights at the Metro parking lot should be adjusted as appropriate to reduce shadows on neighboring properties in order to ensure compatibility with the varying heights of neighboring buildings. So why zoning up to 120 feet? If that's written in, if you say, okay, you can build to 120 feet, they'll find a way to do it. It's inconsistent with the character and the quality of life in Forest Glen. I'm also concerned with the potential that this may bring for overdevelopment in the neighborhood, additional traffic gridlock, and I'm asking the county council to consider all of these concerns as you make your decision. Yes, we want a progressive, developed Forest Glen, but let's do the right thing and do it properly and justly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for testifying tonight. Now on to Group E, David Cox, Margaret Durney, Joseph Sutton Jr., Melissa Sloan, Tanya Olson, Wanda West, and Charles Ehrlich. David Cox.
Good evening. Thank you, Council. My name is David Cox, and I'm the president of the North Woodside Citizens Association. I'm testifying on behalf of the association in strong support of the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills Sector Plan. There's been a lot of talk about Forest Glen tonight, but I want to talk about the gateway to downtown Silver Spring, Montgomery Hills. North Woodside is a community of about 300 households located directly west of Georgia Avenue, south of Seminary, right there south of the shopping center. For more than 40 years, we have tried to improve that area. The corridor has some of the highest vehicular accident rates in the state, is a hostile environment for both pedestrians and cyclists, and many local businesses struggle with lack of accessibility in functionally obsolete buildings. Sector Plan is a step in the right direction. It addresses traffic, challenges to economic development, affordable housing, schools, pedestrian and bike safety, historic preservation, and environmental impact. In particular, it is designed around and incorporates elements of the State Highway Administration's preferred 5B, which my neighborhood supports. It supports greater pedestrian and bike access, and upon completion of that Georgia Avenue project, it envisions turning the space between the 16th Avenues into, which is a blighted area and a homeless encampment today, into a park that would in fact be the gateway to downtown Silver Spring. It also considers school impacts. Most importantly, to many of my neighbors, it considers problems with the current small businesses in that area. So I echo the county executive's comments on that, in particular our beloved grocery store Snyder's. We want to keep that, and we want the council to think of ways that we continue to keep that. The very first place I visited in Silver Spring when I was deciding to live here was the Woodside Deli. It's gone. That should be a warning sign for everybody. We do have two concerns we want to point out. One is a number of our residents are dubious about the historic designations for some of these buildings, in particular the Prestige Dry Cleaners, which I don't think, if that is an impediment to redevelopment, I'm not sure we would support it. The other thing is that the plan assumes that Woodland Elementary will be rebuilt to such capacity that it could support the additional development in that area. Woodland Elementary is on the superintendent's major capital projects, and so that is a good thing, but if that should slip, that would be a problem. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't request your support on implementation of this plan going forward. I offer a quote from the sector plan. Montgomery Hills and the residential neighborhoods which surround it should be a place where people are encouraged to walk rather than drive. With all the convenience this location offers, Montgomery Hills should be an attractive, accessible neighborhood center. It may surprise you that that quote is from the 2000 sector plan, and that has never been realized. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Margaret Durney.
My name is Margaret Durney, and I'm the principal of St. John the Evangelist Elementary School. Thank you for your time to speak this evening. The expansion plan to open Woodland Drive through Medical Park and continue on to Dennis attempts to create more access for cars and bikes using the Georgia Avenue corridor for commuting. This expansion would create a through street between St. John the Evangelist Parish and school. The school, which serves approximately 200 children each year, has been at its present location on Woodland Avenue for almost 70 years. Students cross the street regularly during the school day for activities and events. Their playground is located directly adjacent to the street. The drop-off and pick-up procedures, which take approximately 10 minutes, aim to reduce the traffic and, more importantly, keep the children safe. The proposed expansion would increase traffic in front of the school. We're not talking about teenagers here. We're talking about children in the school who range from ages 4 to 13. Their safety would be compromised if the street is opened. The school's crossing guard, Jean Chaffees, who's an employee of Montgomery County Public Schools, stands at the intersection of Woodland Drive and August twice daily. She wrote the following to me. I think opening up of Woodland Drive as a through street is unwise. Doing so would only funnel the congestion waiting for the Georgia Avenue light at Woodland in August in the morning hours down Woodland Drive, as drivers would try to use that as a shortcut to Georgia Avenue. That would cause a very unsafe and disorderly arrival. Unfortunately, over the years, I have seen drivers become more and more distracted, and their tunnel vision is getting to their destination. This would account for an accident waiting to happen. The safety of elementary school children arriving and departing, whether by car, walking, or biking, playing on the playground, outside gym classes, close to the proposed intersection at the end of Woodland Drive is not the only reason to limit traffic. There are also parishioners who attend activities at the school. Holy Cross employees park at the parking lot. School buses from other schools drop off and arrive on the street. Adding more traffic down Woodland day or night would not contribute to Montgomery County's vision to create pedestrian safety, but would create hazardous conditions for both cyclists and walkers. The school is not opposed to the county plan. We actually applaud the county's vision for their residents. We just want to make sure that that their next generation of the county's residents, their children, are equally as safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Sutton Jr. Please press the button at the base of the microphone. Okay.
I'm Joe Sutton. I represent Forest Glen Medical Center. Thank you for having me this evening. Forest Glen Medical Center was originally developed in 1967 by a team of 8 physicians with only 2 remaining and now 22 different heirs. To say that this group has deep roots in the community would be an understatement. And the theme in discussions with the ownership has been their legacy carrying this property forward. We're at an interesting stage with the property. Now that it's almost 52 years old, the building has grown functionally obsolete. So we're confronted with the decision, how best to take this property forward. With specific consideration to addressing the community needs, as well as our tenant needs in the building. We spent a lot of time working with Melissa Williams and her team, and I have to say we wholeheartedly endorse the new plan. It's one of the most thoughtful plans that I've experienced in my 32 years of being in the real estate industry. Really, really inclusive, a passionate community. There's been a common theme. People want amenities. They want safe passage to the metro. We've got to get that metro funded sooner than later. You haven't lived until you've seen a pregnant lady leading 2 of her kids across George Avenue during rush hour to try to get to the hospital. It's a terrible situation, and we're proud and looking forward to the tunnel exiting on our property there. And that in itself will have tremendous impact on the community. But with regard, I think more in the context of being able to execute within a reasonable period of time. There's been a lot of talk about building height. And, in talking to the planners, this has been a topic, that's gone on for over a year, and it's been discussed intimately throughout hearings. And what we want to see on our site is we want to see quality development. We would hate to see the same, stick on podium development that doesn't stand the test of time. You can't achieve a higher quality product without greater density. That height is critical to delivering quality product that's going to stand the test of time. And even then, there are economic issues that we have to overcome, hopefully with the red policy and potentially an enterprise zone. Those things would be very helpful to us. But we do want to address all of the community's needs on the site from an amenity perspective. And we
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Appreciate you coming tonight. Melissa Sloan.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Melissa Sloan, and I signed up to speak tonight as a neighbor in Forest Estates and a parent to 5 small children. I am also the assistant principal at St. John the Evangelist School. As a neighbor and a parent, the majority of the sector plan is very exciting to me and my family. We love the commitment of Montgomery County to make pedestrian and bicycling safety a priority. We also love the potential future entrance to the Forest Glen Metro on the eastbound side of Georgia Avenue. Despite these exciting parts of the sector plan, I am here tonight to voice my opposition to the proposed part of the plan to open up Woodland Drive between August and Medical Park Drive to vehicle traffic. Sorry. Directly through the campus and parish of St. John the Evangelist School. The only property owner on the block of Woodland Drive between August Drive and the current dead end is St. John the Evangelist Church and School. The St. John the Evangelist School will celebrate their 70th year of educating children in 2020. We currently enroll almost 200 students, including students with a variety of special needs. I feel that this is a really important part because, sorry, I keep losing my spot. I feel that this is a really important fact because around 35% of our students can walk or bike to school. 4 of these students are my children, the oldest of whom has Down syndrome. He is able to walk by himself to school in part because of the safe nature of Woodland Drive. The students at St. John the Evangelist use both sides of Woodland Drive weekly for Mass, the use of church meeting room, volunteering in the convent, and other activities. Our students in preschool through 8th grade enjoy recess outside, right next to the currently quiet dead-end street of Woodland Drive. Despite a common misconception that much of the traffic through the neighborhood is due to St. John the Evangelist, I see more cars using the neighborhood for through traffic, often recklessly and speeding, to get to Georgia Avenue and not to pull into the school on my walk every morning down Brisbane and up August. The opening of Woodland Drive puts all of our students in grave danger, which is in direct opposition to one of the goals of the sector plan to increase safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. All of our students also deserve to have increased safety, especially those that walk and bike to school. This proposed opening would also make it nearly impossible for us to have a safe and effective drop-off and dismissal procedures. I, as a neighbor, parent, parishioner, and administrator at St. John the Evangelist, strongly support much of the proposed sector plan, and we welcome a bike path between Medical Park Drive and Woodland Drive. We think this would serve the purpose of the proposed breezeway, which has the intention of creating safer places for people to commute by bike and not use Georgia Avenue. We strongly ask that the proposed opening of Woodland Drive be removed from the current sector plan, as it was in 1996, when the committee ruled St. John the Evangelist Church and School is an essential part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya Olson.
Hi, my name is Tanya Olson, and tonight I speak against the request in conjunction with the sector plan to rezone 9820 Woodland and 9909 Georgia Avenue from R60 to CRN, with proposed plans to replace these 2 single-family dwellings with up to 5 4-story townhomes. This is the plan that Ms. Carrier spoke about for her client, who I would note does not live in either residence. I own and reside at 9822 Woodland Drive, and so these 2 properties form a right angle L around the south and west sides of my home. Personally, rezoning these homes from R60 will mean an increase in noise and a loss of privacy for my partner and I. We spend time on our deck, in our yard, in the garden, working in our flower beds, and on the patio. Our house, as are all the others on our street and almost all of them in our neighborhood, is a 1-story with a redone attic. To be surrounded by 4-story behemoths is out of proportion to the rest of our neighborhood. Worse would be the proposed driveway from the Woodland side through the backyard of 9820 Woodland and into the backyard of 9909 Georgia. Cars cutting through this multiple times a day, 7 days a week, would add to an already congested Woodland Drive, and the noise and the exhaust would destroy our ability to be outside. From inside the house, there would only be one room where we would not have to watch these cars drive back and forth all day. Headlights would shine directly into every room of our house, and there would be no escaping this intrusion unless we lived with blinds closed. The topography of Woodland also means that all the other houses on the west side of Woodland would be subjected to these same views. From Tilton to Forest Glen, Woodland runs downhill, and so residents of every higher up home from Tilton down would also have to watch cars come and go day and night. Woodland's topography also introduces ecological concerns about this request. When it rains, water runs through the backyards from 9830, ending up pooling in the backyard of 9820. If the backyard of 9820 was asphalted over to create parking, this spot would carry auto residue and other contaminants into the watershed. The sector plan works best when its design builds and diversifies communities. It is most destructive when it values profit over residents. As such, I asked that both 9820 Woodland and 9909 Georgia remain zoned as single family.
Thank you so much. Wanda West?
Good evening.
Please press the button at the base. There you go.
Thank you. My name is Wanda West. I'm a member of the Americana Finnmark Community Relations Committee, and for several months now, the committee has been gathering signatures on a petition that we will eventually present to the council. Our petition addresses only one aspect of the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills sector plan, and that is the rezoning of the Forest Glen Metro Station parking lot.
What's that?
There
Sorry.
you go. Thank you. Go ahead.
And that is the rezoning of the Forest Glen Metro Station parking lot for mixed-use buildings with heights up to 120 feet. Our petition requests that the council reject this proposed zoning height and restrict buildings in the zone to no greater than 75 feet. As our committee has collected petition signatures and discussed this issue with residents within our community, we have found that the vast majority, in fact almost all of them, have no prior knowledge of the proposal to develop the Forest Glen Metro Station parking lot. This is a critically important fact that the council should be made aware of. Personally, I am proud that our petition has been such an effective tool for raising awareness of this proposed development among citizens who will be affected by it. The petition initiative has given us valuable insight into the concerns of our community, which we believe the council must consider, and those concerns are listed in my written testimony. I will share only one, and that is perhaps the most concerning question related to Forest Glen Metro Station parking lot development. If the worst-case scenario becomes a reality at the Forest Glen Metro Station, a natural or a man-made disaster, what is the plan for evacuating Metro riders stranded 21 stories underground? This is a challenge today with the current volume of Forest Glen riders. What happens when there are hundreds more of them? And although there are people in the community who disagree with us, I would like to point out that we are in fact pro-development, but we want what we do indeed call smart development, because we want development that does not overburden the metro station or add to the traffic gridlock. Smart development, we argue, means limiting the height of the buildings to limit density. Smart development means planning with foresight, prioritizing the safety of metro riders.
Thank you, Ms. West. Thank you so much. We'll
very
consider
much.
the rest of your written testimony. Charles Ehrlich?
Thank you, Madam President and council members. I apologize, I don't have a written testimony. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, in fact. I'm a homeowner on the immediate west side of the parking lot at the Forest Glen Metro Station. My wife and I are homeowners there. We're probably as close to the parking lot as anyone. And so I did want to express our support for development. We would like to see light retail come in and support the idea of the development. But on the other hand, we also would like to see a limit to the height of the allowed buildings. because we would literally live in the shadow for half the day probably. I think that it would be very helpful to keep the height down. In looking at the photo in the plan, proposed photo, I don't see any vehicular traffic in the proposal, and I'm wondering just what vehicular traffic there might be. This looks very pretty from the front, but I'm wondering what it would look like from the back. And ourselves, our neighbors to the north also, we would be greatly impacted by that. Where are the dumpsters going to be? Where are the trucks that are coming in to service those going to enter and exit? Those kinds of details, I think, need to be considered in the overall package. So I'll just keep my remarks brief. We wanted to make those points. And if there's anything you can do to bring the Woodside Deli in, that'd be great.
I know. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming over tonight. I want to remind everybody that there'll be a Fed committee work session on Monday, November 25th. So stay tuned. And again, thank you so much for coming and sharing your testimony. Good night.
$6,000 a month. And